echoes of a dance in the game spies play. With every ear he lends to the ground, secrets of a city in whispers found. In the pulse of a hidden fight, Khalid and Amir through the longest night, holding on to a fragile dream, crafting peace in the seaman sea. Amir speaks his words of flame, kindling hope in a world untamed. From streets to hearts his vision spreads, planting futures where fears once tread. In the pulse of a hidden fight, Khalid and Amir through the longest night, holding on to a fragile dream, crafting peace in the seaman sea. Underneath the market's cry, a silent oath beneath the sky. Together they stand against the tide. In shadows and light they now abide. In the pulse of a hidden fight, Khalid and Amir through the longest night, holding on to a fragile dream, crafting peace in the seaman sea. So here they walk, side by side, in the tales of shadows. They boldly strive for peaceful hope. They bend the light, Khalid and the love fading light.
In the bustling streets of a Middle Eastern city, Khalid, under the guise of a local entrepreneur, operates discreetly, his true identity hidden beneath layers of forged documents and aliases. His mission is clear yet fraught with personal conflict: monitor a rising extremist group that threatens regional stability. One warm evening, while sitting in a dimly lit cafe sipping strong coffee, Khalid overhears a conversation at the next table. A young man, barely in his 20s, speaks passionately about joining the group Khalid is tracking. His reasons are not born of hate, but despair over the dire state of his community, struggling under economic and political oppression. Khalid sees in this young man a reflection of his own youthful anger and desperation. He knows that this path leads to destruction, not just for the young man, but for countless others. His CIA training urges him to dismiss these sentiments, to focus on the mission. But his heart, tied to the land and its people, aches for a different resolution. Making a decision that veers off the cold protocol of espionage, Khalid approaches the young man as he leaves the cafe. Introducing himself as a business investor, Khalid speaks of alternative ways to channel his fervor for change through entrepreneurship and social activism, not violence. He offers mentorship and resources, hoping to steer the young man towards building, not destroying. As days turn into weeks, Khalid's double life grows more complex. He cultivates a relationship with the young man, whom he learns is named Amir, redirecting his potential from violent extremism to community leadership. Yet, he continues to relay information to the CIA, walking a razor-thin line that could snap under the weight of any misstep. In a climactic turn, the extremist group plans a significant attack, and Khalid discovers that Amir's cousin is deeply involved. Faced with the toughest decision of his career, Khalid must choose between blowing his cover to save innocent lives or staying hidden to maintain his influence within the community. As the plot nears execution, Khalid decides to act, using his CIA resources to thwart the attack covertly. The operation is a success, but the fallout is immediate. His relationship with Amir is jeopardized, and his cover risks exposure. In the aftermath, as he sits across from a confused and betrayed Amir, Khalid reveals his true identity and purpose. The revelation is painful, but it brings a new understanding between them. Khalid's honesty and his genuine efforts to offer an alternative to violence allow Amir to see the broader picture of his own choices. Khalid remains in the shadows, his work never done, but with a renewed sense of purpose. He knows that fighting terrorism isn't just about removing threats. It's about nurturing hope in places where despair has deep roots. Thus, Khalid continues his journey, ever the spy, but now also a mentor, caught between worlds but navigating them with a heart that seeks peace over conflict. Several months passed since the thwarted attack, and the dynamics in the city had shifted subtly yet significantly. Khalid's intervention had set a ripple of change in motion, although the constant hum of danger never fully dissipated. Amir, now more of an apprentice than a mere mentee, began to spearhead community projects funded discreetly by Khalid's network. These initiatives brought hope and a sense of empowerment to the youth, many of whom saw Amir as a beacon of positive change. However, Khalid's dual existence grew increasingly precarious. His successes hadn't gone unnoticed by the extremist leaders, who sensed an unknown force undermining their influence. Meanwhile, Khalid's CIA handlers pressured him for more actionable intelligence, less convinced about the long-term impact of his grassroots strategy. One sultry night, Khalid received an encrypted message alerting him to an imminent meeting among the extremist group's top brass, possibly to discuss another major attack. This was the breakthrough Khalid had been waiting for, yet it came with immense risks. The meeting was to take place in a remote compound heavily guarded and off the grid. Determined to gather crucial information, Khalid prepped for the most dangerous mission of his undercover career. He employed a mix of traditional spycraft and modern technology, employing drones for reconnaissance and old-school disguises to infiltrate the area. As he edged closer to the compound under the cloak of darkness, the weight of his double life pressed on him. Every step was a dance with death, but turning back was never an option for Khalid. Inside, as he hid in the shadows, he overheard plans that confirmed a coordinated series of attacks aimed at several major cities. Khalid managed to plant a listening device and escape undetected, but the real challenge lay ahead. With this critical information, he had the power to stop a catastrophe, but exposing the plan would also expose his involvement indirectly. His cover would be blown, and his life and the lives of those like Amir, whom he had come to regard as family, would be in grave danger. Back at his safe house, Khalid wrestled with his options. Reporting back to the CIA would ensure a swift counteraction, potentially saving thousands of lives, but endangering his and Amir's. Alternatively, he could try to sabotage the extremists' plans himself, a risky move that could fail disastrously. After hours of deliberation, Khalid chose a third path. He contacted Amir, revealing only that he needed help to prevent a great tragedy. Together, they devised a plan not just to thwart the attacks, but to capture key members of the extremist group, hoping to dismantle the network from within. The plan was audacious and fraught with peril. It required precise timing, absolute secrecy, and an unwavering trust in each other. On the eve of the planned attacks, Khalid and Amir, along with a trusted team built over months of quiet recruitment and training, moved into position. In a series of coordinated moves, blending Khalid's intelligence and Amir's local knowledge, they managed to disrupt the extremists' communication, isolate their leaders, and feed false information that led to their capture by local authorities. The mission was a success, celebrated in secret by those who knew the true stakes. Khalid's identity remained secure, but more importantly, the potential of community-led change became evident to all involved. Khalid knew that the battle was far from over. New challenges would arise, but he had fostered a network grounded in trust and shared goals, a far cry from his solitary days as a spy. He and Amir continued to work together, building a model of engagement that could perhaps one day prove to the world that the strongest counter to violence was not more violence, but empowered communities leading their own change. In the wake of their covert victory, Khalid and Amir found themselves at the forefront of a burgeoning movement. The success of their operation not only prevented a catastrophe, but also shifted the community's perspective on how to deal with extremism. Khalid's strategy of empowerment over enforcement had begun to take root, inspiring similar initiatives in neighboring regions. However, the burden of Khalid's secret life never lightened. Each day brought with it the stark reminder that his identity could be exposed, putting everything he had worked for at risk. Despite this, he felt a deep commitment to his adopted community, making it increasingly difficult to consider ever leaving the life he had built undercover. Amir, growing ever more influential as a community leader, started to sense the toll their efforts were taking on Khalid. He proposed expanding their network to include international support, not just from Khalid's CIA contacts, but from global NGOs and local governments interested in fostering peace and development rather than conflict. Khalid was initially hesitant, aware that widening their circle could increase the risk of exposure. But he also recognized the potential for greater impact and the need for a sustainable model that could continue without his direct involvement should anything happen to him. With Khalid's cautious approval, Amir took the lead on this new phase, traveling to conferences and meeting with potential partners. Their project, once a covert operation, began to morph into a legitimate NGO with the mission of using education, economic development, and community building to combat extremism. Meanwhile, Khalid remained in the shadows, his role shifting from active field agent to strategic advisor. This new dynamic allowed him to focus on training a select group of local youths in intelligence and counter-terrorism tactics, ensuring that the community could defend itself against future threats. Their efforts were tested when a new extremist faction rose, fueled by resentment towards the changes Khalid and Amir had implemented. This group was more clandestine and seemed immune to the community outreach that had quelled previous unrest. They planned a series of low-level attacks designed to destabilize the region and undermine the burgeoning sense of security. Khalid's trainees, under his guidance, managed to intercept communications about an impending attack on a major community center during a large public event. The young team executed a counter-operation that Khalid had meticulously planned, managing to neutralize the threat without a single civilian casualty. This successful defense marked a turning point, showcasing the effectiveness of Khalid's training and the resilience of the community. The thwarted attack solidified public support for Amir's NGO, which now served as a model of community-driven security. Khalid, seeing the success and potential of what they had built, began to contemplate his future. His role as an undercover agent seemed to be drawing to a close, his identity still a secret, but his purpose overtaken by the very movement he had helped to create. As he pondered these thoughts in his modest, safe house, Khalid received an unexpected secure message from his CIA handler, offering him a new assignment, one that would take him away from the community he had grown to love and back into the shadows of espionage. Faced with a decision that would define the rest of his life, Khalid weighed his commitment to global security against the local ties he had forged. Khalid knew whatever choice he made would come with profound consequences, not just for him, but for the community that had come to depend on him. As he stared at the message, the sounds of children playing in the street outside served as a poignant reminder of the stakes involved. He realized that his journey had always been about finding where he truly belonged, and perhaps he had found it right here among the people he had come to call his family.